from a galaxy far, far away.
And a bookshelf straight out of the 90s.
From Thrawn to Dantooine
And everything in between. This is Legends Look Back.
This is it. It's showtime. Ready to go. You are tuned into Legends Look Back, in which case, if you didn't intend to be, hey, this is Legends Look Back. Glad to have you here. In fact, I've been doing a lot of traveling lately, and I had one of these weird encounters the other day where I was like, I'm not totally sure how to handle this. My wife wasn't with me, so the awkwardly outgoing social side of me that makes her uncomfortable was just totally on display. I didn't have to worry about embarrassing her. I was on a train, maybe a subway. I don't exactly remember when this happened. Could have been in an airport. At some point in my travels in the middle of the public transportation scenario I found myself in, I saw a rando wearing a Star Wars shirt. And guys, I'm curious, what do you do if you spot somebody wearing a Star Wars shirt out in the wild? Do you have like a protocol on this? When's the appropriate time to say something, and when do you just keep your mouth shut?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a really good question. I think for me at least, I see a lot of them now, and it's more of like I'm glad there are more of these shirts around now. But there's a part of me that's like, I wonder if they know about Legends.
Yeah.
I wonder if they know about the EU. Like, I wonder if they know how big Star Wars is. That's the first thing I always think of.
How many times have you read The Truce at Bakura? That's the question the video always leads with.
Number one bestseller. Just kidding. Exactly.
I feel like if
Well-
I see a shirt, I don't really do anything. If I hear them talking about it, I full on insert
Yeah.
myself in the conversation. And
Okay, that's a good policy.
It happened at the dog
That's
park
fair.
once, and I hadn't talked to a human in a very long time. And so it was interesting. It was an interesting conversation. It was in like the peak of COVID. And they were not as big as Star Wars fans as I was, which was a little awkward.
So you have to shout like 12 feet away, "Don't worry, I won't infect you, but I love Star Wars."
I like Star Wars too.
Give me that shirt.
Goodness.
My protocol, at least like that I joke with my wife about, I don't know if I've actually ever done this, but like, all right, it's not so different from if you see somebody wearing the shirt of your favorite sports team. For example, I was in the Boston airport the other day flying to Arkansas, and I saw, for the first time ever in my entire life, in another random airport that was not like in the South, somebody wearing Arkansas Razorback caps. And, hey, we're having a heck of a year, so you better believe that I'm going to say something this time around. I yell at the top of my lungs, "Go Hogs!" or something like that. Well, they turn, and being wonderful Southern hospitality Arkansans that they are, they come right over to me and shake my hand and introduce themselves. And I was like, my wife would have died if I had done that. Yeah, and so when you see somebody wearing a Star Wars shirt, it's not so different than that. So
That's fair.
what I always joke to her is, if I see somebody wearing a Star Wars shirt, I look at her and I say, "Go Star Wars, am I right?" Like, it's your favorite team. Like, go team, right?
Go team.
That's fair.
I did not.
That's fair.
In this particular scenario, I just stared at them for so long, hoping they would notice I was also wearing a Star Wars shirt.
Yeah, there you go.
And we'd be like, "Hey, you see the thing?"
Yeah.
They did not look at me.
Oh.
But I hope somebody else on the train looked at me, looking at them, and considered calling the police. Like, I hope that it at least crossed their mind.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
I didn't end up doing it. Go ahead, Rick.
Oh, I was just going to say, that's what I do is if usually I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt too. And so I'll kind of give them the, or, kind of make eye contact with them. But I'm totally the awkward dude. I'll be like, "Hey, I like your shirt." And they're like, "Thank you," or whatever. And I make it weird. But that reminds me, my wife is a big Legends of Zelda fan, and she was wearing a Zelda shirt. And someone...
You had me at Legend.
Right, yeah.
I know.
and
then you took it to a different franchise.
Sorry.
That's right.
But one time, she was like at Walmart or something, and somebody actually came up and like wanted like her fan card because he was like, "Whoa, you're not just like a Breath of the Wild fan, are you? You're like a real do you actually play like Zelda?" And she was super offended and started listing all the games she had played. Like, back off! I got my millennial street cred, okay? Like, go leave me alone. So, as long as we're not doing that with Star Wars fans, I want to see everything, but
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to do the gatekeeping thing.
Right.
We're not about that over here. Well, I did not gatekeep
That's good.
on the subway. What I
good.
did, however, was I saw a bird. There was a guy on the subway with a bird. So that was
pet?
fun. Yeah, like a
Not a pigeon,
like a noisy.
like a-
I don't know, like a cockatoo. No,
Like, those are,
Like a
I hate to
vulture?
break it to you, Jared, but they're around.
yeah, this man had a bird. And
That's awesome.
Everybody on the train instantly just pulled up their phones and started videoing this guy because his bird was
His
singing
bird.
and talking. And You won't hear any singing on this episode, but you will hear some great talking. Even more exciting than a subway bird, maybe. To find out, let's start the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Legends Look Back, proudly part of the Utini Podcast Network. It's a Star Wars books podcast for people who like to crush Capri Sun, where we celebrate our rich EU history as well as dive into lesser-known Star Wars classics. I'm your host, Jared Mays, and I'm joined, as always, or at least most of the time, by Freddie C. Oh, he's got the helmet,
going
fresh
there,
off duty.
Jared?
We've had some good Power Rangers conversations lately happening in the Discord.
Yeah, I
That was
noticed.
awesome.
So someone in the Discord was like, "Hey, Jared, I didn't know you were a Power Rangers fan." So I was like, you know what? We might have some new listeners in here. They have not seen the mask thing yet, so I decided to pull it out and put the Red Ranger.
Nice.
For those who were not able to see this, I just ripped off my Red Ranger helmet right now. So just got back from the fight. You know, no big deal.
Yeah.
That's right. You got the helmet hair. I'm actually putting together a new, I'm designing what my next Star Wars room is going to look like. Looks like I might get to have a new studio before too long, and I'm thinking about putting it next to my Star Wars bookshelf. Also having a bookshelf just for 90s nostalgic junk. And so I'm going to get the boom box that I had as a kid. You know, the silver one that weighs 50 pounds that the corners you could cut your face with.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about putting that on there. I'm thinking about putting my Power Rangers helmets, my Megazords.
Nice.
It's trying to make you proud, Freddie. You know who else is trying to make Freddie proud? Our new producer, Rick Grace.
Hey, I'm here. Alive, alert. Oh, what is it? Awake, alive, alert, enthusiastic, something like that. So we survived
sound
the
good.
day. So yeah, I'm glad to be here. Seriously, this has become the thing I look forward to every week more than a lot of other things, and so super glad to be
That's
here.
right. Definitely, absolutely, yeah. Lately, my wife has said, "How'd the podcast go?" And I'm like, I cannot begin to describe to you the huge smile I had on my face the whole time. If you're an audio listener, you just have to take my word for it. You know what else you have to take my word for? The fact that I'm joined by our other co-host, Emily Daybeck, or I guess you could listen to her. Hi, Emily.
Hey, how are y'all doing? Yeah, I think every week when we're done with the show, I have to massage my cheeks because they're so tired of smiling the whole time. So if you get the chance to catch us live, we would love to chat with you and have you join the group. I just got
You
back
heard it
from
here first, folks. That's right. Look at our cheeks.
I just got back from the Pacific Northwest. We actually flew up to Seattle. We have some friends up there. And so I went to an old school arcade and got to play some Star Wars games this week. It was really fun. So that was
awesome.
It was pretty eventful. I was very excited to get out of the desert for just a little bit, and also very happy to come back because I really do love living in the desert. But here I'm at.
Which arcade cabinet was it? Was it Battle Pods or was it? Because that's the cool one. There's also a really good one from the '90s, the Pod Racer, right? Where you have to hold both of the handles and.
I remember that one.
I think it was Battle Pods. It was really disorienting to me. My husband actually played that game because I couldn't handle it. But we also played some pinball that we didn't understand. Both of us were playing side by side, and we're like, I don't know what we're doing. I don't know how this goes. Does
those
this
battle
work?
pods are so awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. I felt like I.
Did you
wasn't
sit
really room for
inside
me,
of
but-
something?
I kind of stood outside. So it has
Okay.
two little doors on the side that kind of close, and then
So
but
cool.
they're plastic. So I left him open a little bit. Nobody yelled at me, so I just kept standing there.
That's awesome.
It was really cool. He's
Awesome.
very good at it. But yeah,
One of these days, when we have enough time, I'll tell you guys the full story of the time my friends and I went on a 3-hour heist road trip to try to steal or bargain for a Star old school 1983 Star Wars Return of the Jedi pinball cabinet. It was a whole thing, and it was not successful.
oh,
But it's a great story, maybe.
that would be a great show
We'll find
opener.
Yeah, one of these days.
One of these days, we'll hear it.
I mean, it's like anticlimactic because we did not succeed.
Yeah, I guess you did already kind of spoil it, didn't you?
Yeah.
Well, it sounds fun.
But you know what I did succeed at? My most recent mission was away on a road trip, as I mentioned, the travel thing. And I went to this cool comic book store that I've been hitting up lately when I am in the area in Northwest Arkansas. It is just one of these absolute, like, hole-in-the-wall stores that is just the door. Like in a shopping center, very nondescript. You don't think that place is going to have a tremendous Trevor Trove. What's
Trevor Trove?
What has Trevor done to me? We had an episode called the Trevor Trove.
That's great.
That's what
like
I
a
call.
year
That's what I
ago.
used to call it. I used to call Trevor the Trevor Trove, and it caught
right.
on.
Yeah.
Eric says we must redo the heist. I'm down. Absolutely. We'll make a YouTube video out of it. Absolutely. So you can smash that like and subscribe. So I went to this little hole-in-the-wall store that has just hundreds of Star Wars action figures, single-issue comics, both canon and Legends. They've got some like Star Wars model kits where you can build ships and stuff. They've got like classic figures and they've got like some of the newer figures, Mandalorian stuff. They've got some Funko Pops. I mean, it's just everything. It's remarkable. It's amazing. I picked up a couple of books while I was there. I was able to find this old copy of Return of the Jedi.
Man.
I've been trying to collect all the Legends paperbacks, and yes, as I had to explain to my wife when I got home, I did already own Return of the Jedi in paperback, but not this one, not this cover. It's got the blue lightsaber with the red words, and it's gorgeous. It smells like it doesn't want me to smell it again. Oh, goodness. And I also picked up the Shatterpoint hardcover. Very excited to find. I've been trying to
nice.
get all the hardcovers for all the books that we cover on the show. I've also not been actively collecting as much, so haven't been trying to just buy all the hardcovers unless I find them in the wild. $6.50. $6.50. A little bit of a whitening in the corner, but $6.50 for this bad boy.
Good price.
Very proud of
Good
it.
price.
And you can have that Depa Balaba deadpan stare that's now featured in all the Utini commercials. I've got one more thing, but I'm going to save it for last. Anybody else have anything in the recent acquisitions?
I do. I didn't even notice this. I was about to throw something away, and I guess it's not really an acquisition. It just happened upon my lap. But after I opened the limited run, what is it? The Commando.
Did it burst like a piñata?
Yeah, the Republic Commando game. There was something in there. I was like, huh, what is this? It's kind of shiny, and it caught my eye. So I saw this side, and then I flipped it over, and it's like a
gorgeous.
holographic.
It's a holographic.
You see that? It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I was like, I almost threw this thing away.
Woo.
Yeah, so I found this.
Oh, man,
this
that is beautiful.
beautiful Star Wars Republic Commando limited run holo card. I have no idea what to do with it, but I've got it.
Wow, man, you can sleeve that up and put it in your next Pokemon deck.
Yeah.
And when they knock out your Pikachu, you can say, yeah, well, I've got Boss.
I've got the Republic Commandos.
That's right.
That's right. Here to save the day. How about you guys? Anything else?
I got something I'll show real quick. So I actually didn't buy anything. I sent my wife to go to our local Books A Million to pick up Visions, and they didn't have it off the truck yet. I'm pretty angry about that. And so they couldn't do anything. It's cool. It's like a total, that's like the definition of a first world problem, though, isn't it? Not getting a book on release day. Anyway, but she did pick up this really cool luggage tag for me. We've been staring at it for a while and just we don't want to buy it, but it says not the
at that
bag
thing.
you're looking for.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
That's
and it's
cute.
like leather. She's also in the chat, so shout out to my wife. Hey Jess,
Yeah, thanks for letting us do the show.
yeah, seriously, I get to neglect my family for a few hours every Thursday night, so what's better than that? Hey, and question for you guys. Should I upstage Jared with something he showed, or just?
think so.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good call.
I kind of felt bad. So
What do you have?
yeah, the same book you just showed off, but in hardcover.
Oh!
That's gorgeous.
So
Beautiful. That's great shape.
I felt like a jerk for thinking that, but I was like, it's funny. Why not?
That's
The show just instantly
Perfect.
became that meme where everybody reacts like this. Oh!
Yeah.
yeah, right? Mark that for the thumbnail.
Goodness. Yeah.
That's so
Hey.
cool. I love that cover. I've
beautiful
never
book.
seen that before.
Yes. They're pretty sweet.
It looks very
And,
Stranger Things, which is obvious.
We're We're gonna have to coordinate with our book hunting because I've got a bunch of books I'm trying to sell. So I'll have to see if you guys are looking for something. I actually do
I've got
have
a few extras that I've been saving as prizes for things on Legends Look Back, and they were not intentional extras. They were ones where I was
Okay.
like, yeah, I don't think I have that one. And then I did and bought it anyway.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Every time I go to a bookstore and I see a copy of True Bakura, I buy it, and I have roughly about 20 something.
That's hilarious. Are you trying to like
I
remove them from
I had zero
circulation?
before I met Freddie, and now I have 3 or 4. Yeah,
What?
it's all your fault.
What's the plan there? I don't understand. Is it just to like protect them from the world or what?
Eventually drive mine in price. Nah, it's not that. I give them away so often. I have to give one to
Okay.
Jose now that I think about it.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's right.
Joxy.
Yeah.
Well,
Emily, how about you?
I have no new acquisitions this week. We've been traveling all week, so have not gotten.
Well done. I've actually thought about gifting you some of my extras because I have
Because you have,
I have
a
some of these
bazillion
duplicates.
them.
Like you're gonna need them eventually. Yeah,
That
we're
is
gonna get
true.
to
Like
them
I've
in
got
the
a lot
show.
of partial collections, which really bothers me. Now I understand why collecting is a thing. Because like if you have 2 of the 3, you have to get the third.
yes, you do.
Yep.
And also, as a digital reader, I respect that. I do read quite a bit digitally as well. I get a lot from the library. In fact, this year for Black Friday, we're planning a show that is not about Star Wars collecting, but about being a Star Wars fan for free. Freddie and I are big advocates for the fact that you don't have to spend money to be a Star Wars fan. That's something you can do if you choose to, if that's how you want to spend your money, if you have that disposable money to spend, but that's not the point of what it is to be a Star Wars fan. We're planning a whole show. It's going to be great. I've already written like 6 or 8 pages of show notes. It's going to be amazing.
Nice.
But there are some books that don't exist digitally like on Kindle, such as some of the old school ones like the Brian Daley Han Solo books and the L. Neil Smith Lando books, right? These bad boys here, Han Solo at Stars. I don't think there is a Kindle version.
I don't know.
I just so happen to have extras. Anyway, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. I've got a lot of things that need to be getting mailed out. But I've got one more thing in the Thraken's thrift store segment, and if you are a part of our Discord, you heard a little bit of this story. If you are not, now is the plug for you to join utini.com/Discord. Maybe. I'm just guessing that that's the right link. I've been collecting. Freddie, do you know what my my most active collection is at the moment? Like, what is the one collection I am most eager to complete at this particular point in my fandom? We've been podcasting together 2 years. Do you know what it is?
I mean, there's honestly 3 things I can think of. Right? There's Power Rangers, Pokemon, but Pokemon's a little tough, right? There's a lot of Pokemon cards now.
There's a lot.
Power Rangers is definitely one of them. I know Power Rangers. You've been on a very big collecting spree of their comic books and those in general. And then
Yeah.
there's your Legends collection, which I know you're very close to finishing or just about there. I feel or
I finished the Legends paperback collection.
Okay.
It's a Star Wars thing.
okay.
But it is specifically the 1999 cup toppers from Taco Bell, KFC, and Pizza Hut. Emily, have you ever seen these before? Do you know about these?
What are they supposed? They go on top of your cup. Does
Yeah,
it like have a
so-
spot for like a straw or like?
Yes.
Yeah, you stick it right in the back of Boss Nass's ponytail. That's right.
Oh,
So
wow.
for our audio listeners, I am holding a Boss Nass that came from a KFC, Pizza Hut, or Taco Bell in 1999. I'm most actively trying to complete the collection of all 12 of the cup toppers
How many do
from
you have?
99. 4 or 5. 5
4 or
at this
5.
point.
Where do you
Yoda,
find this
Sebulba,
stuff?
Watto, young Anakin, and now I
Antique
found Boss
stores.
Nass. Right, yeah, antique stores,
Nice.
and
Okay.
specifically like some comic book stores, collectible stores that accumulate these kind of retro, obscure items. And I was just about to leave the store. I'd found like a couple single issues, nothing spectacular. And on my way out the store, I looked up. And they had dangling from the ceiling hundreds of toys from all kinds of different franchises. DC Comics, Marvel Comics, Star Trek. And right as I was about to leave the store, I saw Boss Nass dangling from the ceiling. And I was like, I want him.
Can
So
you
they
get-
brought him down.
Did they get a ladder?
And we had a... Oh, I don't know how they got him down. I was distracted. That's a good question I should call and ask. Do you guys remember how you got it? They brought it down. In fact, he was just covered in dust. He's been up there for who knows how long. And the guy who runs the store, I kid you not, this is my best impression, I'm not exaggerating, he said, and I'm sorry for the levels for our audio editor. The audio editor is me. So sorry to future Jared. He says to me, I bought that thing at a KFC in 1999, and I drank a Mountain Dew out of it and everything. And I said, oh, awesome. He said, don't worry, I washed it, but it's been up there for quite a while. It's pretty dusty. And I was like, no big deal, man. No big deal. See you later. Turns out, I got him home. I washed him off, got all the dust off. And you know what happened? He got incredibly sticky.
So you should have
So
left
he's
him
doing fine.
dusty.
I should have left him dusty. I think the best theory that I had is the plastic activated when I scrubbed the dust off because it was like so caked on. It was ingrained into Boss Nass. It was a whole thing, and it was very unpleasant. It took me quite a while to get it off my fingers. There's still some residue. Now, here's the real question. Do you think it's 20-year-old Mountain Dew? Silence.
I don't know. I think you need to make a globe-like environment and submerge him, and then he'll be happy.
There you go.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that would probably be best submerged, Jared. Sticky Boss Nasses. They don't need to live.
Well,
in
Sticky
the
Boss
world.
Nass is at this moment my favorite item in my collection.
That's awesome.
Because
here's
he's
the thing
so
about these.
sticky.
They look-
Are the other ones that sticky?
No. Boss Nass is uniquely sticky. He is,
Oh.
yeah.
That should be a
It
T-shirt
is
right
with-
there.
These are so good because they sit on the shelf perfectly. I mean, just like look how cleanly this sucker sits on this book. I mean, it's perfect. I don't even care about the cups. I've got some of the cups. I've got them stacked. Sometimes I drink out of them. I think the Yoda cup is currently being used to hoist dog food out of the dog food container into the dog food bowl.
My favorite
Need
is
a big
still
cup for
Anakin.
that. The Anakin, he's good. He looks great.
Yeah.
I definitely had
Do you have-
the Jar Jar Binks as a kid. I don't know where it still is. I hope it's at my parents' house, but I had that one.
If you have it, Rick, I'll pay you $15 for it. That's the
Ooh,
that's the going price. on
going
these
price.
Right now.
Wow. Okay.
I'll pay you $16 just to up it. Well, you know what else is uniquely sticky? The amount of Legends news that we have in tonight's episode. We were actually debating behind the scenes, a little peek behind the curtain here, whether or not we should move the Legends news and Thraken's thrift store segment to like a once a month thing so that we can get into the meat of the show. From time to time. We were like, yeah, we're going to move that to a once a month thing. And then we were bombarded with Legends news. Freddie, take the first thing.
Well, the crazy thing is when we decided that Legends news needed to be probably once a month, that's a good problem because back when we started this show, Legends news was out, but it wasn't as intense as it is now.
There wasn't much.
There wasn't much. So right off the bat, we've got the new hardcover omnibus was announced for. There's a lot, man. I'm looking at this list. So New Republic Volume 1, which is collecting Mara Jade, By the Emperor's Hand, Shadows of the Empire, Evolution, X-Wing Rogue Leader, X-Wing Rogue Squadron 1 through 6, and a handful of other issues from that time period. We've got some the standard art cover by Hugh Fleming. There's a comic book exclusive from Gary Erskine, I think it's Erskine.
Erskine? There's an E on the end. I think that we've actually got some images for these
Yeah, these are
to show off the Fleming cover and the Erskine cover.
some beautiful
Yeah.
covers. So, first of all, the comics that it's collecting are pretty awesome. I mean, Rogue Squadron, Rogue Leader, it's some great reads. Oh, look at that cover.
No, what's amazing about this is that these hardcover omnibuy are happening. It's a thing. Like
Yeah.
that we've got one on our shelves. One is, oh man, this thing is heavy. One has actually been released at this point, but like we don't have any others out yet, and there is like a problem in the supply chain. So we are getting them a little bit delayed. Actually, the Rise of the Sith omnibus, I believe, was also just recently delayed. We're gonna get to that in a second. But the good news is more and more are being announced, and these things are infinitely collectible. They are as collectible as they are heavy.
Yes.
So now here's the problem. I only own like 6 or 8 of the Marvel what do you call these things? The Marvel Epic Collections. These are also really good, really collectible. However, some have gotten rare and expensive. I have a few. The only one that I have a complete run of is all the Rogue Squadron comics.
Oh,
And
nice.
so now they've been announced in the hardcover omnibus, but like, I think in the grand scheme of collecting, I'm gonna want all these hardcover omnibuy because they are so good on the shelf. You gotta have those hardcovers. Am I right?
Yeah, those are some beautiful. They are heavy. Emily, I don't know if you've seen these books yet. You, Eric, Eric. I was just reading his thing in the chat. But Jared just held up a book flawlessly. I'm not sure if you realize how heavy those books are. They're roughly like 10 to 20 pounds.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Freddie.
Oh wow.
They're so heavy. They're so heavy.
Jacob weighed it, isn't it? Jacob actually he weighed it on a scale because he brought one to a convention, and he got his signed by John Jackson
Oh,
Miller.
nice.
And he lugged the sucker around the convention center. So I don't remember exactly the weight. 8 pounds sounds right?
It's around. I think it's like roughly around 8 to 10 pounds. Like it's a.
That's like
it's
a
hefty
baby
book.
size. Like that's like carrying around a baby.
That's right. Yeah, I'm going to give birth to it right here live on air. Are you ready? No. But this, hey, let it be known on my resume. As was seen right here live on the show, Jared can lift 8 pounds with one hand.
Minimal problem.
Well, this comes out summer of 2022, so should be coming out next summer, depending on the delays and all of that. Freddie, are you going to get it?
Yeah, I have to get it. It's talking about Rogue Squadron, and that was my second Star Wars read, I believe. So I gotta do it. I have to do it. I have to.
Emily, are you going to get it? You've just read the first Rogue Squadron book. Now, do you feel the need to read all the comics?
I like to collect my knowledge internally, like in my head and in my heart.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. Here's what I'll do. I'll
probably
buy
not.
2 copies, just in case you ever want one.
Okay, there we go.
I'll buy both
You know
of the
what
covers.
I do actually, because I do read primarily from what the library offers, is I'll request for the library to buy it. So it still supports the authors, but then more people who don't have access to as much funding or whatnot can still enjoy Star Wars, and I get it for multiple people. And then it got irritating because everybody at the library started catching on, and then now there's like a hold for all the books I want to read. So I have to like wait.
No way.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's what I do. I request for libraries to buy them.
That's great. I like that. You know what? That's very much gonna be part of that episode, Jared.
With the
I've got
library
all
thing,
kinds of
it's already
hacks.
on the list, Freddie.
Okay,
I'm
great.
cheap.
It's on the list.
Cheap.
Don't you worry. How about you, Rick? Are you going to get it?
I'm not sure. So I need some help because comics are new. My voice just cracked on help there. It's like choking on help. But I have a help. I have a hard time. That's another story for another time. The time I had to call an ambulance and I was choking. Wow. Okay. But I need help differentiating between the omnibuy, and Epic Collections and the overlap because it's stinking confusing to me, and I need help. But also, talking about libraries, I almost stole a hardcover Kenobi from a library because
What?
it was much more valuable in my library than theirs.
Oh my
I will pay you for this book.
Yeah, seriously. I was like, can I buy this? And they're like, no. And I'm like, what if I lose it?
In my house.
Yeah. But then I found a better deal, and there's their back. Look, I'm like an addict, okay? I need help.
That's hilarious.
Wow.
Book
I don't
collecting, man.
even know what to say there. All right. I can say this much, Rick. We're not going to get into all of those details right now, but our buddy Jake over on the YouTube channel has an entire YouTube video about how to collect and read Star Wars comics.
Okay.
And it's impeccably well done. He really gets into great detail, brings a tremendous amount of style to the video with a buttery, silky, smooth Southern accent. And so he really gets into the difference between all of these. Basically, the omnibus, these hardcover omnibuy, are massive, they're collectible, they're expensive, and they collect the most amount of material. You can typically get an entire comic run in a one volume. Now, that's not always the most readable. If you try to like read it in bed while you're falling asleep at night, you drop the sucker on your face, you're going to the hospital.
Or falling
I'll
asleep
tell you that
more
much.
easily. Either one. Night.
If you're like doing like bench presses with the omnibus, like how are you reading this? I feel like
Like
it'd have
Jared
to be laid
probably
out in
does.
front of you.
Hey, Jared, I've got a question for you. maybe
Yes, sir.
I'm pretty sure I saw this in the chat, but what do you think? So we've got volume 1, right? There's probably going to be a volume 2.
I have thoughts on this. Now, our buddy Skooma Joe actually gave some good, some good speculation on this in the Discord the day that this was announced, that the Volume 1, was going to be coming our way. And he said, I don't think it was original to him, but from another friend of his, somebody from, another Legends server of some sort, in the seedy underbelly of the hive and scum and villainy that is Legends Online. He said, based on the way that these have collected the Marvel Epic collections, it would make the most sense logically. This is crazy. Buckle up. The Volume 2 might, not necessarily is, but it probably could feasibly be, buckle up, both the Thrawn trilogy adaptations and Dark Empire in one volume. Here's my question. Would that automatically put it in contention for the greatest Star Wars book ever bound?
I was just thinking about that. The fact that that almost seems like they would split those up to make more money. If I ever saw those together, that would be tough, man. I'd have to have several of those in my library.
Now, here's the fun thing with this. We talked about this a little bit, mostly behind the scenes, not a ton on air. There's kind of a rivalry between Timothy Zahn and Tom Veitch, the authors of these respective books. They came out the exact same year. They had drastically different visions for what was going to happen after Return of the Jedi. They're both extremely critical of the other's work. And so, there's some
contention
not
for
bad
sure.
blood,
Yeah.
but there's definitely blood. There's definitely blood that's been shed over, exactly what was a better story.
Yeah.
I come out, I think, on an unpopular side. I love both. Definitely love both. Most people would say the Thrawn trilogy is better, but for these to both be in the same volume, if you got this thing signed by both Timothy Zahn and Tom Veitch, I'm sweating just thinking about it, man.
I'd like to have a birthday party where I invite both and see what happens.
Better yet, a podcast.
Yeah. Oh, by the
No
way,
promises.
Timothy Zahn, we've got Tom on the phone.
Yeah, whew. I don't think I can handle that one. I could just feel my blood pressure boiling. But very excited, so keep your eyes peeled. That might be coming our way. We'll see. So now we've got some other announcements that have been made. So we talked about the hardcover omnibus that is going to be coming out before too long. But we also, in the meantime, have 4. You count it. That's right. 4 new Marvel Epic collections that have been announced. I'm going to turn this one over to Emily.
All right, so the 4 include Tales of the Jedi Volume 2, which has Collecting Golden Age of the Sith, Fall of the Sith Empire, Tales of the Jedi, and the Freedom Nad Uprising. It also
Now,
contains...
Emily, I'm going to pause you right there
Please do.
real quick. Do you know the drama about this book that we have discussed on this show?
I'm
Freddie's
gonna-
smiling. He knows what it is.
Most of the time when you say, do you know, you probably already know the answer. It's going to be...
Here's the funny thing.
No.
This doesn't have all of Tales of the Jedi. Obviously, there's going to be more in Volume 3. However, this is the first that actually has any titles called Tales of the Jedi. Because Tales of the Jedi Volume 1 doesn't contain a single issue called Tales of the Jedi. Isn't that right,
Yeah,
Freddie?
it doesn't.
I think I've got one down here. Hold on.
What?
Yeah, I don't think it does. But Tales of the Jedi also has Fall of the Sith, Empire, Golden Age of the Sith, and Tales of Jedi. Just one of those legendsy things, right?
Yeah, here we go. Tales of the Jedi Volume 1. Bought it this year. Came out in March, I believe. It contains Dawn of the Jedi. Doesn't contain any Tales of the Jedi. And so John Jackson Miller himself even tweeted, finally, Tales of the Jedi is being collected in Tales of the Jedi. Oh, man, there's some cool, reference material in the back of this thing. All right, for another day, we're not podcasting. What's up next, Emily?
All right, so that was one of 4. Number 2, it contains Clone Wars Volume 4. And that collects Darth Maul, Son of Dathomir, Republic numbers 74 through 77. The Siege of Salusami.
Saleucami.
Yes.
Yeah, I liked yours.
Salami, the
Salami
Tales of
works, that's what I
Salami.
call it.
The Siege of Salami. Republic numbers 81 through 83. The Hidden Enemy, the Revenge of the Sith adaptation, and a few other random issues from the time period.
That's a lot.
I'm gonna ask Rick about this one real quick. Do you know what's so odd about that one, Clone Wars Volume 4? As somebody who knows some canon and some legends, you're kind of on the fence between the two.
Wow.
Well, based on the issues that she just described there, anything unusual to you?
Oh, let's see. Let's look back over.
And let us know in the chat. Did you hear anything unusual about this Legends Epic Collection with those titles that she just read?
Let's see. My only
I'll give you a
guess
hint.
would be something
Go
with
ahead.
Seleucumai, but that's all I would say.
One
Or
of these-
Revenge of the Sith being both canon and legends, I guess.
The adaptation is, I think, Legends-ish. But there is one thing in here that is not exclusively Legends.
What's that?
And that is Darth Maul, Son of Dathomir, is a Dark Horse comic,
Oh.
but it's technically canon.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's in a Legends Epic Collection.
Wow, that is confusing. Yeah, no, I'm
Yeah.
actually about to step up and speak and tell Emily that I would have no clue for any of these questions, so I'm just nodding along, acting like I know, but I'm really nope, I'm here to learn tonight for sure.
Rick, I did put a couple of pronunciations in your super secret pronunciation guide.
Thank you.
So
Yes.
they're out there
All right.
somewhere.
Super secret.
I don't remember what they are. Yeah, super secret.
Yeah.
That's right. Emily, number 3. I'll quit interrupting you.
The Empire.
No, actually, I've got something about this one. Yeah, I do.
Okay, enough. The Empire, Volume 7. It collects Blood Ties. Blood Ties, Boba Fett is dead. Empire numbers 1 through 4. Underworld, the Yavin Basilica, and a few other odds and ends. And it is this coming out close to the Blood Ties omnibus?
It is.
So this is what's odd and unusual, right? Take it away, Freddie.
Well, I mean, the fact that you've got relatively the same things being printed out around the same time. I don't know. Usually, I'd prefer something spaced out or at least all together. Or I don't know. It's interesting though. Why they'd come?
Either way, it's just all the more reason for us to cover it here on the show. It's as if the Marvel overlords are trying to send us a message that they really want this to be discussed on the most positive Legends podcast on the internet, right? And finally, Emily, we've got one more epic collection.
The Menace Revealed, Volume 3. And that has Star Wars 1998, episodes 36 through 45. Mostly Quinlan Voss's story, Jedi Quest, Jango Fett number 1, and Zam Wessel number 1. And they
Nice.
will arrive monthly from May to August 2022.
So nice.
What's so exciting about this is that the Cosmic Force is actually doing an episode next week. It will feature either Freddie or myself. We have not totally decided who's going to take that slot yet, so tune in Wednesday night to find out. We are going to be talking all about the tremendously talented, legendary artist Jan Duursema, who was the artist who drew most of those Quinlan Voss stories. They're going to be collected in this new epic collection that was just announced. I started reading some today to get ready, in case it's me on the show. And if it's not, I'll send all my notes to Freddie.
Word on the street
And
is
so-
that Rick has all of these ordered in triplets already in non-readable, hardback, and soft.
Don't say that. He's going to get in trouble.
Nervous laughs.
Rick, you can take the next announcement, however.
Alrighty. So we had a date change for the Rise of the Sith omnibus hardcover. It was going to be November 2nd, and it looks like it's going to be February 8th of this upcoming year, 2022. So some bad news. You want me to keep going, or is that what you want me to say?
Well, I would say about that, the number one thing here, hey, you're a minister. Reassure the people. Help them not to panic, Rick.
Yes. So there is hope. Let me tell you, because when a publisher tells us something, that means it's going to happen, right? Because there's no history in Legends of a publisher saying one thing and then something else happening, right? But no, seriously, it's going to be good. But if you really want Rise of the Sith, you probably could check out the 3 other titles that share that name and be really confused like me. But the Rise of the Sith omnibus hardcover will be coming out in a few months.
Yeah. You know, there is some delay in publishing. Here's the thing about Legends. This stuff has been out for a long time. There's no rush to get to any of it. And it's going to be okay. We've got a lot to cover in the meantime. And finally, if you don't have any Legends books to read in the meantime, you just really want to read that, like, Rise of the Sith hardcover, and you can't read anything else in the meantime, well, there's a new show that you can watch. Freddie, did you ever watch Legends of the Hidden Temple
man.
on Nickelodeon?
Totally watched it. I watched it all the time.
Did you see that there's a new one?
I knew that they were coming back out with something, and I was pretty excited. I mean, there was like, I feel like there's been some things going on with the PR of it for a long time, and then all of a sudden it just popped up, and I was like, there it is. I knew it was coming. All I have to say is Blue Barracudas all the way.
It's the best team name. How about you guys? Did you ever watch this?
I watched it. I feel like it was like my Sunday afternoon nap, half awake, half asleep kind of show. But I absolutely loved it. I remember like trying to find it on TV the other days of the week, and it was just like, where is it? I need more. But I hadn't heard that it's coming back, so I'm pretty excited about that for sure.
So nice.
Well, I just had to throw this in the show notes. You know, it's not Star Wars, but like it's Star Wars esque in the sense that Jedi Temple Challenge, which came out last year on the Star Wars YouTube channel, is based off of Legends of the Hidden Temple with a Star Wars, bent with Ahmed Best and everything.
Yeah.
But like they haven't made a second season. So I watch it and pretend that it's Jedi Temple Challenge.
That's fair, yeah. I can totally see it being like on Yavin or something. That would be pretty sweet.
That's right. Absolutely. And finally, one more other thing before we get into the meat of it tonight. We want to give a plug to something that's being discussed in the Legends Books Discord channel. We're having a bit of debate on exactly when this is going to start. But we've got a community-led, fan-led book club that's going to be starting on A.C. Crispin's Han Solo trilogy, which is great timing for me because I am currently in the middle of the Hutt Gambit. And I know what you're thinking. Jared, haven't you been in the middle of the Hutt Gambit for 6 months? The answer is, yeah. I've had some other books to read along the way, all right? And like 1,000 Greek words to learn for grad school. Oh, my gosh. But covering this bad boy here. You guys going to join in?
I am. Yeah, I'm excited. I've not read that trilogy. It's been on my to-read list for a while, so I'm pretty excited for it.
Excellent. Well, before we get into it tonight, we're going to talk about how exactly Legends became Legends and some of the twists and turns along the way, a bit of a Legends History 101 for people joining us, some evergreen content that we can recommend to those wanting to get started in the Wild West that is Legends for years to come. And before we do so, let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back with everything you need to know, kind of, a little bit about how Legends became what it is. Here's the thing, we've got new hosts here on Legends Look Back, and the fact of the matter is, Legends can be daunting. I mean, if you haven't been in this game for like a decade or more, it can feel like there's so much. And what I used to do, Freddie, did you ever do this thing where, let's see if I can find one, did you ever just like rifle through the timeline that was in the front of the books? Just like stare at this thing and study it?
Totally. Yeah, especially when you got an older book and you could tell that it was old because it only had a few names on the timeline. Those are my favorite. And then nowadays, I mean, that's sometimes how I'm like, okay, what do I want to read next? What's on my list? And then I'll just pick from that timeline.
Well, I mean, now we've got utini.com, so you don't have to look at that old dusty timeline, 2 dimensions in black and white. I mean, we've got one that's, like animated, and there's lightsabers, and there's a starfield. It's super iconic, and I've heard it's a pretty good resource for people who like Star Wars books on the internet. But tonight we're going to talk about the historical side of things on how Legends came to be. It's full of twists and turns, and we're going to chronicle some of those twists and turns tonight. First and foremost, the big question really is, well, what is the expanded universe? Before it was known as Legends, there's a bit of debate within the community on what is the expanded universe. Does that include canon or not? We're not going to try to weigh in on that one tonight, but the basic idea is the expanded universe is ultimately anything beyond the films. If it's not a film, if it doesn't have Harrison Ford, well, I don't guess the prequels have Harrison. Anything beyond the films itself is the expanded universe. We're talking about video games, talking about comics. We're talking about West End Games source material, especially if you're Trevor, he eats that stuff for breakfast. But as such, we start to apply it to like specific things along the way. And we think about the Legends continuity, the timeline. We have to say, well, Does it fit? Is it Legends? Freddie, how seriously should we take continuity as Legends fans, in your opinion?
To me, it's really what reminds you of. It's nostalgia based on my end, and I like to always say that if it was printed, and it's always with discretion. If it was printed, if it was created during 1970s to 1914, or 1914, 2014, it's considered
1914.
it's considered Legends, including the movies. I like to claim it, but there's some doozies in Legends, and you're like, can you canon guys get this one? But
Yeah.
it really is just, if you're thinking of publication, right, in the expanded universe, there's a time frame, there's an estimated time frame of what that is and what's in that range. But it's really entirely up to you, right? I like to claim the movies, because why not?
Yeah, definitely. Even the movies, you can say, well, this, with my imagination, could take it beyond the films for sure. I could see this going a different direction. And of course, you get an author, you get somebody playing in the sandbox, takes it in the direction that they want to. Not always the way that George would have envisioned. And George has an interesting relationship with the EU. Not always the most positive. However, sometimes he sees a character and he's like, I like them. Gonna put them in the movie. Ayla Secura being a good example. Makes her way into the prequel trilogy, right?
And there's different levels.
Quinlan Voss.
of-
I think he started in the movies.
Yeah.
Made his way to the comics, something like that.
The EU had different levels of canon too. There was G-level canon that was like directly from George, and then there was there was a list all the way to canon that's probably not considered as anything serious. So in terms of that tier, I mean, there's a whole separate tier within the tier of Legends. But it's all dependent on like, what do you like? What do you like? And there's obviously Legends can't really be canon, right? It's got a timeline. They can take it. You can take from Legends, and they do it all the time. You're seeing it in canon, and that's what I love, that there's a resource and there's a whole other area for you to discover in the older section, in the nostalgic section.
Yeah, definitely. Rick, you want to weigh in on this one? How seriously should we take continuity?
Well, I mean, I like continuity. I like having I mean, I'd take all this too seriously. So like,
Let's just admit it.
right? And so, I gotta have a clear order of events in my head. But Freddie, you were pretty convincing, man. Some of what you're saying is like, okay, yeah, I really get that. And I like the phrase headcanon that is tossed around in the fandom. That regardless of what a publisher or what any Lucasfilm or Disney authority says, that yeah, you still can believe what you want, and it's still fiction at the end of the day. But you know what I'm saying, you get to create your own narrative, really, and so I get that. But yeah, there definitely are some pros and cons to both of this in some ways that the reset of canon, I guess, kind of brings some different things to light.
Here's the thing. I just got this new book, Ronin. How do you say it, Freddie?
Ronin.
Yeah, he says it so much better. I actually, ever since you said that, have only heard it in your voice. And today when it arrived, man, this just has the beautiful texture. All right, guys, show's over. I'm just going to pet Ronin for the rest of the episode.
Did you crack it open and take a whiff first?
The texture on this hardcover is just wonderful. Anyway, this came in today, and I immediately thought, uh-oh, where do I shelve this thing? Because it's not quite canon. There's not a specific place that it fits on the timeline. Where am I going to put it on my shelf? So, we can get hung up on continuity. We can get hung up over timeline dates and issues and so forth and so on. Nevertheless, the fun thing about Legends is it's the Wild West. We've got, the exact month that things fit on the timeline. Nevertheless, sometimes there's ambiguity. Sometimes things contradict themselves a little bit. And as we went along, it was a shifting universe. New films were being made. New things were coming up along the way. And it was an ever-adaptable timeline. Freddie, why don't you talk for a second about what sets Legends apart from canon?
Well, I mean, there's definitely a date, right? In 2014, when did Disney purchase Star Wars in 2011, or is it 2012, or I can't remember the the exact day.
2012, right?
2012, but I believe there was an announcement, hey, 2014, this is the cutoff, right? And there were some books that were still in production at that time, and some got canceled, and some made it through into canon. So, a little interesting there. Is it Razor's Edge that made it into canon?
No, the next one, Heir to the Jedi.
Jedi, yeah.
Oh, that's
The
so
ever
right.
infamous Heir to the Jedi. Yeah.
So Emily, that's where we talk about like, yeah, you guys could keep that one. That Heir to the Jedi is definitely a canon book. It's a canon book, not a Legends book. Just remember that.
Okay. Just remember, it's their fault.
But the what really sets them apart is also the tone, right? The tone of the books. The books come from an era that is a bygone era, and when you read canon books now, they're gonna sound very 2020-ish, right? That's the theme that they're gonna carry. So these Legends book carry the 90s vibe, the 80s vibe, and the 70s like machismo, Rambo vibe. Like you'll see that.
Yeah, we did
Go ahead.
have an episode all about the Macho Men of Legends.
Yeah, and that's not just because macho men, et cetera, et cetera. This is the time, right? This is what people were consuming at that time. So people were like, okay, Rambo's popular, let's create Dash Renda, and so that's the thing that you're going to see in Legends is just the type of things you're reading. Sometimes it's not as great. Like Shadows of the Empire, it didn't really age that well. But at the same time, you have to read it with that in mind, because if you read it and you get offended, you take yourself back into the 90s. Was that really something that people were voiced about? If not, then take it into context, because that's what Legends really has to be read as, and it has to be taught as. It's a very contextual thing, and that's what I love about just art, right? And books are art. It captures the moment. And you see that really, really well in Legends.
Man, well said, Freddie. Round of applause there for Freddie's answer. He's put some serious thought into this. This is a guy who loves his Legends, right? All right, so there's our there's our
That's what I
thumbnail.
really love about Legends is that like the way that we tackle them here on this show is that it's not really judging them for, not necessarily for like everything that maybe you shouldn't say anymore. But so I thought that was really eloquently put.
Oh, wait till we get to Rogue Squadron next week. We've got
I
some
know.
things
I'm
to
like
say.
waiting. I'm waiting. I'm almost done. I'm like waiting until like I'm like, oh no, you can't say that.
Oh yeah.
There is one chapter in that book that's more problematic than the rest. But like that's my opinion on why there's 41 chapters in Rogue Squadron, so that one chapter doesn't feel like as big of a piece of the puzzle. In the grand scheme of things. Emily, as somebody who's read a handful of canon books, maybe even more than you've read of Legends, having dipped your toe into Legends so far, what would you say is your overarching impression on the big difference between the two?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, I think probably Freddie hit it. It's just that there's this like kind of a rogue sort of there's no rules in Legends, and in canon it seems like there are more rules, sort of like, and just that the characters seem to be a little bit more well balanced or like less extreme in canon. And I think it kind of comes around to morals a lot in canon books. I'm not 100% sure how that's going to translate in Legends books, especially because most of the Legends books I've read have been like dark Sith lore. Like, so.
Yeah, not a ton of morals happening there.
So since that's like the bulk of my experience with Legends, I'd say that seems to be kind of a factor or a theme that I've noticed.
Well said. I would say that it's not that there's no rules. it's that the rules are shifting over time.
And they had to. Yeah, they had to. Because at the beginning, you were right, Emily. If you get back into the early stages of Legends, there was definitely no rules. And in one case, a book that I recommend everybody here read, Splinter of the Mind's Eye.
Oh no, Freddie, don't say this.
You're going to see how different things were and how they evolved over time. And the thing is, the story group at Lucasfilm, Leland Chi, Pablo Hidalgo, like there's a few guys that were eventually installed to keep consistency, because I mean,
before Story Group was Story Group.
yeah, before the story group was even a story group, it was. I mean, just look at the comics, right? You've got two amazing lines, and in my head, they work. They work, right? It all works in my head. I don't know. I don't really care to think about like, oh well, this couldn't have happened because of this. I don't care. It still could have happened in my head, and maybe just a different event. Another day, another year. For instance, like Dark Empire versus Heir to the Empire, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's one of the best reasons why Legends at the beginning was so Wild Westy. But it got to the point where you're like, maybe we should get these things aligned more. And when you start to see those align, I believe like sometime in the 90s,
Yeah.
it kind of gets familiar, and you're just like, oh man, I totally remember hearing about that in this book, and you'll kind of have a smirk on your face. And that's where it gets cool again, where you're just like, okay, now they're referencing things that I read about, early stuff. So pretty interesting stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely does tie together, especially as Heir to the Empire resets the universe. We're going to talk about that more in a second. But then as they are transitioning into the New Jedi Order era, the Del Rey era, in 99, 2000, we did find that there was more of a tight focus, more consistency between the authors. How much of that is just like digital communication improved? People could email. I do wonder sometimes. Nevertheless, I do want to talk about some of those tentpole years that did change the landscape of Legends. First and foremost, Freddie, we're talking about the early days. You and I have spent a handful of episodes in the last couple years together reading some of these old school books. You just mentioned one, Splinter of the Mind's Eye, 1970, what is it, 9?
Yeah,
8?
Before Empire.
I think it's before Empire Strikes
Yeah.
Back even came out, right?
Yep, exactly.
And it's like the potential low-budget sequel to Star Wars without Harrison Ford, taking place on, a swampy, like
Low-budget
mist
movie.
enshrouded planet. Yeah. Then from there we've got the Brian Daley Han Solo trilogy, and then the L. Neil Smith Lando Calrissian trilogy, but they don't necessarily advance the overall story of Star Wars. They're set out over on this particular island of the galaxy, doing its own thing, so forth and so on, until everything changed. Rick, why don't you tell us first and foremost about the year that changed everything for Legends?
Was that the year 1991?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
The year that me and Jared and a few other people were born.
That's right.
No,
Are we all born in 91?
I'm 87.
2.
Are you really, Freddie? Look at you, old man. Show those gray hairs to the
Yeah.
I
camera.
don't have any yet.
Do you not?
No.
Every haircut I get, I'm like, what are y'all doing to my hair? There's more grays every time.
I need to knock on some wood. Hold on.
yeah.
Perfect. Well, this year is notable in Legends, not just for the fact that A Link to the Past was released, but for in Star Wars, the fact that we had both Heir to the Empire and Dark Empire. And
Yep.
Freddie, do you remember us ever talking about the timeline in our Dark Empire episode? Maybe it was our Heir to the Empire episode. Somewhere along the line, we were talking about how these are being developed simultaneously, but kind of apart from each other.
Yeah,
talked about
yeah,
this before,
we
haven't
talked
we?
about it several times, I think. But basically, it was kind of like a, let's see which one hits. That's kind of what I felt like this timeline was. 1991. You had two great stories, totally milestones in the Star Wars realm. This is where a lot of books grab their material from. This is where you start to see a lot of that development and the background of this, and it's funny because you can kind of you can see authors pick the one that they prefer out of the two, and you're like, okay, this guy's definitely on Tom's side. This guy's definitely on Timothy Zahn's side, right? And it's just the funniest thing to see which one they pull from, and some pull from both, and it's really interesting.
Yeah. I would consider Kevin J. Anderson as the great unifying force. He does a lot to bridge the two. You could say that he plays more to Tom Veitch's side of things with the Dark Empire continuity, obviously bringing back Exar Kun, who haunts the Denver International Airport. I mean, the ziggurat on Yavin 4. But he certainly is able to kind of tie those together. You can pick your favorite, but here's the thing about Legends, you don't have to. They can somehow exist simultaneously, separate and apart, but also if you really want to try to make the timelines fit, you can, There's a few different places along the way that integrate them. Emily, I'm curious, have you read the Thrawn trilogy? I know you haven't touched Dark Empire yet. It's going to be a glorious day when you do, but you've touched the Thrawn trilogy, haven't you?
The first two. I haven't gotten to the third one yet.
Okay. Interesting. You haven't met Luke. That's going to be fun.
No, I have not met
won't-
Luke. But it's funny because every time it's taking me time to catch up, obviously. I've only been on the show a few weeks, and so I can't catch up on years and years. But I've already had so many aha moments where I'm like, oh, that's what they were talking about. So I'm excited to meet Luke. I've heard great things.
We would like to help you have those aha moments without being like, dang it, it was spoiled moments. So we're doing our best. Everybody play nice in the chat.
I don't mind spoilers quite so much, but
Okay, well, I would just say stay off the Wook. Let any spoilers that happen through Legends Look Back,
Just
but
learn
not,
as
not
you
the
read.
Wook.
That's how I say it. If you want to develop
That's
more,
right.
just be careful, because then you're going to find out what happens to that person. But as you read and you're like, oh, I wonder what that ship looks like. That's what I always do. I'm always looking up ships, guns, everything that they talk about. I'm like, what does this
Yeah.
look like? It's the funnest part of just, I mean, I'm sure canon's like that. I've only read 1-2 canon books. But for the legend stuff, I remember getting the first art book, and you're like, oh, it's a character book. Oh man, that was so awesome, so cool.
Well, Emily, you may not have finished the Last Command yet. However, I'm fairly certain that you were paying attention to at least generally what was happening in Star Wars culture in 1999. Do you know what is so significant in Star Wars concerning the year 1999, the second huge tentpole year that we're talking about here in Legends history?
I really
I'll
want
give you a hint.
Okay, yeah.
These
Give
cup
me a hint.
toppers came out.
Wait, what?
Yeah. The cup toppers.
Oh.
People got to drink Mountain Dew out of Boss Nass's ponytail.
Yeah,
Boss Nass
yeah.
was created. It's interesting because when you really think about when Star Wars kind of popped back in, there was a dark time, right? There was definitely the Dark Ages. EU was going crazy, but for most of the people who didn't know about the books, like, it was a really weird time. You had some really weird shows come out, movies that were just branded Star Wars but didn't really fit the vibe, right? The holiday special. But then I would say once 1999 came around, when the prequels came out around that time, right? It was 1999.
Yes, The Phantom Menace came out in 1999.
Oh my gosh, to
That's
think
right.
that it came out in 1999 is crazy.
Yeah,
And what's
I was
amazing about
thinking it
this
must be
is
too
it didn't just change the way people looked at Star Wars in general pop culture, but it changed the Legends universe as well, right? So it changed the expanded universe. One of the big things that I say about the differences between canon and Legends when I'm explaining this stuff to people, when people are like, oh, you have a Star Wars podcast? What about? And I'm like, well, have you ever heard of the outdated and irrelevant Star Wars books? They're like, there's Star Wars books?
Yeah.
Yes.
The way that I typically explain things is the big difference is, one, in Legends, Luke's Jedi Academy was successful, whereas in canon, it was a failure. Two, I say that there was no knowledge of the prequels when some of these books were being written, so they're slowly having to be integrated along the way. And then thirdly, the majority of the storytelling for a couple of decades was after Return of the Jedi, because George had declared, the prequels off limits until he slowly let creators play in that sandbox as he deemed appropriate. And we've highlighted a couple of other big differences tonight on the show as well. At this point, some huge things change in the Legends universe. One, George allowed people to start writing in the prequel universe. So the Star Wars comic, Star Wars 1998, that we discussed earlier, some of the issues of which are being released in one of these new, is it the Omnibus or the, no, not the Omnibus, one of these Legends Epic collections, Star Wars 1998. It starts with Ki-Adi-Mundi, right, in his polygamist Jedi ways. From there, we get characters like Quinlan Vos, Aayla Secura, and even Sharad Het, Darth Krayt's father? Something like that. Grandfather? It's been a while. So we get, of course, some prequel stories start to be integrated along the way. And then secondly, there is one huge series that kicks off that very year, I'll give you guys a hint. My copy of the first book of this series is addressed to a guy named Doug. It says Merry Christmas 1999. What is this series?
Are we talking about the?
Ta-da.
Yeah.
The New Jedi Order kicked off in 99.
Is that the one with the
Did you know this,
Yuuzhan Vong
Rick?
on it?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Merry Christmas 1999. To Greg, not Doug.
Oh.
Sorry to slander you, Doug.
Oh man.
So we started a 19-book series that dominated Legends storytelling for a handful of 5 years, and then in addition to that, of course, totally changed everything that was going to come after in the Legends universe, because we've got new characters developed, new relationships between them, so forth and so on. 1999. Do you guys think that it deserves making the cut of the 4 or 5 years that changed everything in Legends? You got the prequels.
Yeah.
You got the New Jedi Order.
It's crazy because you're right. There was definitely a time where George restricted timelines. Do not talk about anything before he wanted that template to start from. And then 1999 came out, and you can really tell the difference between the storytelling. Everything was more consistent. I feel like Lucas Arts, Lucasfilm was an actual company. It wasn't so startup-y, I'll say.
Yeah, not as haphazard.
Not as haphazard. And you can see the difference in the Legends books. They start to get more consistent. They start to build off each other. Start to get big names, big. How many books are in the that series? In the
what, New Jedi Order? 19.
Not exactly, right? Like it went
That's
from
not even counting the short stories or the
from
comics.
like trilogies to like 19. I mean, of course you had X-Wing or Rogue Squadron, but that's also like it's kind of different, if you ask me. But it's crazy how that era just brought on so many different books and from different timelines, and we're starting to talk about like years and thousands and thousands and thousands of years before the stuff that you've read about, into like eras that we'd never even thought of, right? And that's kind of what happened, I would say, you started to see that in that era.
Yeah, we got a good comment here from OK Indar in the chat. We've also got a lot more games coming out at that point too. There were a lot being kicked off in the prequel era. You've got Pod Racer and Bounty Hunter. The one that I played a lot of was the Revenge of the Sith game, which leads us to our next point in 2005. That's our third of our 4 tentpole years in Legends storytelling that we're going to talk about tonight. 2005, Revenge of the Sith. Finally, the prequels were culminated. They had been released. But for Legends storytelling, this is significant. For the one hand, we now have the gap bridged, right? We now know what George envisioned leading up to the development of Darth Vader and the Stormtroopers and what happened to the Jedi, so forth and so on. But there was one other huge door that was opened for the expanded universe at this particular time, and that is now people can finally write about that time period between Episode 3 and Episode 4,
Yes.
which up until this point, for how many years are between 76 and 2005? Let's do some math here.
29.
Carry the
maybe?
1.
30,
20.
25.
It's
25.
It's a number.
25 years.
Yes.
20, something like that. Yeah. So for this longest
More
time,
than
people
two.
could not tackle this gap between these. And at this point, we finally get it, right? We've got the Coruscant Knights books. We've got the Purge comics, the Dark Times comics. We've got a couple of books along the way. I think most notably The Force Unleashed really tackles this time period well, for better or for worse, right? And so the Dark Times finally opened up. Now the sky's the limit with Legends. You can go as far back as you want in the timeline, as far forward as you want.
Man.
We've got Dawn of the Jedi. We've got Lost Tribe of the Sith. Eventually, in the years to come, we're going to have the Legacy comics. Nothing is off limits at this point
That's-
anymore. You think that's right?
Yeah, you took me down memory lane that I totally forgot it even existed in my head.
That's the point, Freddie.
Yeah, that's crazy. Just thinking about, when I first picked up True Sepakura sitting right there. The first time I picked that up, that was the story I started with. And it was a great story to start with, honestly, when I think about it, right after What You Know. And then you've got just continuously reading down, and then remember going to, what was it, Celebration 4, when I started to get into the EU again, and then Celebration 5, I mean, it was like I progressively started coming out with content. I was buying them as they came out, and then thinking about, oh my goodness, this is an era we've never even thought of, with some of the novellas, and then getting a Kenobi book of like, what was he like, you know, and then seeing that, and then
Yeah.
it just
That's in the closing years there. What is Kenobi 2011?
yeah, it's the closing years, and then you progressively got to see more of Star Wars, and you got to read about things you never even thought of you would think about in Star Wars, which was really cool. I mean, that was cool. Imagine never thinking about what happened like 10,000 years, or even in the Clone Wars. We had no idea what was going on, and once we saw the Clone Wars, I was like, oh my gosh, that's what they're talking about. This is the Clone Wars. It was cool.
And that's the fun thing about Legends. We got a drastically different Clone Wars. In fact, there's two different Clone Wars continuities within the Legends universe itself, which has, you know, the Ahsoka Legends, right, the Filoni Clone Wars, as well as, you know, Quinlan Voss's Dark and Broody Clone Wars. That's the way I think of it, in case anybody was wondering. There is, however, one final year that we want to talk about in our rundown tonight of your trip through Legends history, and that is the nail in the coffin. Or we could call it the end of an era and the beginning of a new one, which I think is probably, you know, a better way to look at it. 2014. Do you guys remember where you were when you heard that the expanded universe was being sidelined? You know, it was being put the cap was being closed on it. The door was closed. Where not that it's thrown away. These stories still exist. We're still celebrating them each and every week right here on Legends Look Back. However, we are now going to move into a new era of Star Wars storytelling. Where were you on the fateful day in April of 2014 when Legends became Legends? Rick, do you remember?
Just vaguely. I was still in college, and I remember what apartment I was in. We moved around a lot back in those days, and I think I had just started collecting, and so I wasn't sure if this meant that these books were about to be super hard to find or more valuable or less valuable, whatever. But it definitely was a memorable time because I knew that it was significant, but I didn't really know how significant. And so, like, even looking back now, like, I think I've actually read more canon than Legends, but yeah, I mean, sorry, I'm kind of rambling, but I do remember the time. It was an important day.
Well, that actually brings up a good point that for me personally, I was like, I've got to finish collecting these paperbacks because now they're going to start printing that Legends banner across the top. And I've already started collecting them without the banner. And now that they're printing them with the banner, I don't want to have some with the banner.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we would make those trips to try to buy the $2.99 copies at our local Hastings. Little did I know that Rick was also swooping them out from under me and in our same little college town. How about you, Freddie? 2014. How did you feel?
Well,
Did it scare you?
I was watching the preliminary games for the World Cup that year. I know that. And I think it like dropped sometime in like April or so, like the official announcement. They were like, hey, Legends is turning a new page. And to me, I was like, okay, I kind of saw that. And I honestly didn't mind because there's a lot in Legends that conflicts each other. There's some retconning that's a little obvious. And it got a little out of hand, and there was a lot there to unpack. So part of me was thinking a refresh actually would be a good thing because we can start from scratch and have new stories, and I was totally down for that. Problem is, I'm on a podcast that talks about Legends, and I really don't get time to read canon anymore.
Well, that is the problem. You didn't see that coming. I'm glad that you are, Freddie. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna learn how to flow walk like Jason Solo did, and we're gonna go back in time so that we have time to read all the Legends books and then stay current with the canon books. Sometimes it's a struggle, regardless. You know, Freddie makes a good point that on Legends Look Back, our official stance is that we actually like that Legends is Legends. It's its own separate thing. The door is closed. We're publishing canon books now because it's already, 150-something books? We were counting earlier, Freddie. How many full-length adult Legends novels are there?
It's like 100,
over 150.
156, something like that, plus or minus.
We know we're in the ballpark.
Yeah. Something like that.
And that's a considerable amount. If you want to read all of those, hey, you got your work cut out for you. Good luck. You're in the right place. But also, that's a lot of work. And we actually consider it a good thing. Nothing to bemoan here on this podcast. Now, Emily, I'm not going to ask you where you were in 2014 when Legends became Legends. What I am going to ask, however, is somebody who is on this journey with us now. At this point, what has happened in Legends since? What is there to look forward to for Legends fans right now?
Well, we went over a lot of news earlier, so probably all of
That's right.
those, like Omnibuy and
Those epic collections,
covers.
especially.
yeah, the Marvel Epic collections and hardcover Omnibuy. Yeah, the Del Rey Essential Legends collections.
So good.
That's a new development. Was that this year? Did we get our first ones this
I
year?
think so. That's
Got
what I think.
7 of these so far this year. And I'm excited to see what's going to come with these. We've got some new audiobooks coming out as well. That's pretty exciting to me. I would say that's the most exciting thing as a
Yeah.
Legends fan. Out of everything that's happened since 2014, new unabridged Legends audiobooks.
So good.
And I'm going to absolutely eviscerate what I thought of Rogue Squadron next week on the show. No, I won't. Yeah, anything else to be excited about?
I guess just incorporation and adaptation into canon, like War of the Bounty Hunters and Solo.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of stuff added that came from Legends,
totally.
right?
The movies, you're seeing things that were taken. I mean, just
Oh yeah.
Palpatine coming back to life. It's you
Yeah.
know, if you were into Legends, seen that one. A little slimier though.
Seen way more of him in that one, right? Now, this is kind of a fun in-joke. Like, if you've read Legends, and then something, there's an Easter egg, like such as last week in what was it, Kevin Scott's comic, we had the incorporation of Zeltrons, which we debated, those salty Zeltrons. If you knew who they were, it was an Easter egg for you. You could appreciate you were in on the joke. Now, finally, I want to ask you guys, what are our hopes for Legends going forward? We're thinking, sky's the limit. Obviously, we're talking about the outdated and irrelevant content, but is there anything you'd like to see happen in the future? Sky's the limit. There's no wrong answers, no bad ideas in brainstorming, as I always say. My wife hates it when I say that. Rick, let's start with you. What are your hopes for the Legends storytelling, Legends universe going forward?
My first thought is kind of the historical route, just that we don't forget the legacy, and that we remember where Star Wars stories have been. And, like you said, there's some things that haven't aged well, but there are some that definitely have. So just kind of remembering them as our legacy in Star Wars. It's great that we still have Star Wars stories. That's the cool thing about a new canon, is we are still getting Star Wars stories.
Yeah.
But we still can dig back into those great stories that are now, titled or bannered or whatever Legends. They still are part of our story as Star Wars fans. And so that, I think just making sure that they don't get knocked down any pegs and they still stay important despite classifying, a different timeline. Y'all, I've been a sci-fi fan for a long time. Having alternate universes or trying to
Exactly.
manage different continuities is nothing new. So I'm cool with it, and I think there's still plenty to be excited about.
My retcon is if you see two Lukes doing something at the same time, it's probably Luke.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Emily, you're up next.
I think just more Easter eggs in canon. I know that this isn't it's hard for me to think of new aspects of Legends as a fairly new Legends person.
I think that's the best
It's a
part.
perfectly fine dream.
Well, yeah, so just from what I really fell in love with Star Wars because I felt like by reading the books, I was collecting more information about the films and about the universe. So it felt to me kind of like a treasure hunt. So I would really look forward to finding more little Legends Easter eggs in canon on all the new series that are coming out, and the new books and all that. I just think it'd be fun to find little shout outs.
Now that you mention that, on today's this week's episode of the Star Wars Archives that our buddies Trevor and Jose do, they do a Hutt deep dive, a Hutt spectacular, and they talk about Zorba the Hutt. Zorba from what were those books? Those hardcover ones, Galaxy of Fear, maybe, or are they in the Glove of Darth Vader? One of the 90s kind of obscure, kind of not even in Legends continuity. Legends books. Anyway, one of the it's the one with the pirate braids on his beard.
Zorba.
The bearded Hutt.
Zorba. That is Zorba.
Yeah.
Isn't it Zorba?
It is Zorba.
Anyway, they were saying, what if Zorba comes back in
Oh,
the Book of
the-
Boba Fett this fall.
So
Huh.
cool.
And I was like, that would be the best.
I wanna-
If we got Zorba. So
wanna
that's
see
right.
more
You know,
Hutts.
the canon Easter eggs, the Legends Easter eggs and canon content can be excellent. And I think Book of Boba Fett is rife for the picking with like the Bounty Hunter Wars trilogy stuff would be great, right?
Yeah, that'd be so awesome. That's so awesome.
Freddie, you're up. What are your hopes for Legends going forward?
Well, the good thing, so my hopes for Legends is that more people dive into Legends, and the thing about it is I feel like it's happening because of these re-releases, these Legends Epic collections, Essential Legends collections. You know, everything we're doing is pretty amazing. That was my wish, and my wish is that it continues to grow because there's so much good content in Legends. And honestly, if it hasn't been written in canon yet, it still sort of exists, right? And even if it's retconned in canon, to me, it still kind of exists. It's so nostalgic. I'd love for people to dive more into it, especially those who grew up. Even if you grew up with like the Phantom Menace, like Legends is still yours. If you dive into it, if you dive into Legends books, they feel nostalgic to you to the point where you'll think back on Legends books being nostalgic even though you're new to it. And the fact that we have Emily here, I'm so excited for Emily to really experience Legends for the first time, in the sense that when I remember when I experienced it the first time, right? I have a little different story because I started when I was in possibly elementary school, you know, leaving elementary school into middle school. And I just grabbed Truce of Bakura because I saw it. It was there. I had to read a book. I didn't have anything else. It said Star Wars, and I grabbed onto it. And ever since then, it's just been a discovery, right? Go into a bookstore, and you see like a $3 book hanging out right there, and it's a Star Wars book, and you're going to read it. It's going to be old, and you're just going to love it because it's Star Wars, right? Not all of them have the same way of telling the story, but it's still Star Wars. And Emily, you're going to have such a great time, honestly. Thinking about these episodes, let's see what it's like a year from now. We listen back to this episode and see what your thoughts are.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point, Freddie. That's one of my goals as well. One of my hopes is I love having a space here at the podcast where more Legends fans can come along. We want to have a very low barrier to entry. You don't have to have read a ton of stuff to be able to jump in on any given episode. We want to do evergreen content. Nevertheless, we want to have a good back catalog if you want to follow along with us. We've got tons of fans who are, and by tons I mean like 4 or 5, who are going back and listening to all the old episodes one at a time. And so that's a ton of fun in the Discord as well. And even to have some hosts here with us who are discovering this as we go. Now, Rick, as one of those hosts, you say you're discovering more about all of this. You had something else for us that hadn't made it in quite yet. What you got?
Yeah, so actually just connects really well with what we were just talking about. You know, I listened to the show pretty early on when you guys were getting started. I think Jared may have even sent me a link.
I'm sure I did.
But anyway, yeah, so I've been listening for a long time, but some of the books that you guys are covering, I knew that I didn't want to get into because, you know, I just didn't want to hear anything that was going to be a potential spoiler. But in one random episode, you guys mentioned the Essential Reader's Companion.
Oh, yes.
And
the goat. The absolute goat.
yeah, you guys just matter-of-factly dropped it in, and I had never heard of it before. And Emily, you may not have either, but this is basically the Legends Bible, okay? It talks about...
Put it in your Bible case.
I should. It like covers just about everything in Legends, and it's pretty spoiler laden. So if any of you guys haven't heard of this and you're watching tonight or watching this later, or listening later, you know, read at your own risk. But it does really, really help you get caught up really quick on the details behind the stories, behind the scenes with the book, but also the content of the books and the comics and the stories and everything. So
The
it
art
is
beautiful in
glorious.
that book.
Yes,
At the very
that too.
least, you could just look at the pictures.
Right,
That's right.
yeah. So thank you guys for mentioning that all these years ago. And I want to make sure that our fans and listeners know about that now, if they don't already.
Yeah, I would just want to say, you know, you should read your actual Bible too, but this is a good Legends Bible. good Legends Bible, Rick. And finally, as we get ready to close it out, I wanted to give my hopes for Legends going forward as well. I do want to say I'm very excited to bring more fans along here with us, be an inclusive community. Secondly, I'm excited for the Knights of the Old Republic remake and anything else that might happen content-wise or merchandise-wise related to that. If we get some cool Legends, like a Revan tease or like a new Revan book, it could happen. New Revan comic. Oh my goodness, it would be awesome. I'm excited for more of the audiobooks coming out. Want to get some more of these hardcover omnibuy on the shelves. And then finally, my last hope would be get some more Legends Funko Pops. Bastille is getting lonely. She doesn't want to hang out with Sticky Boss Nass. We need to get some more Legends Funko Pops. So throwing that out there into the universe for the Celestials to sort out. Well, that does it for this week on Legends Look Back. If you want to follow along with us in our roundtables, next week we've got another one of our legendary roundtables coming up. We're going to be covering Rogue Squadron next week. If you haven't started it yet, do you want to plug this? You can get the new audiobook for free, narrated by Mark Thompson, by visiting Utini.com, clicking on the Audible promo in the pop-up, where you can get your hands on that on us. Hey, you're welcome. You too can experience the joy of Core and Horn in your ears for the first time ever. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us here on Legends Look Back. I want to give a shout-out to our incredible patrons for your amazing support. We love making this show, and we're glad that you're along for the ride. A special thank you to Cheryl Bell, Patrick Ortiz, Carl Sander, OK Indar on our Jedi High Council, and Elizabeth Cloutier, Jason Mitchell, Sally and Chris Eilerson, Freddie C., Earl Q., and our newest patron, Tyler Latour, on our Alliance High Command for your amazing support. If you'd like your thoughts and questions right on the show, you can email us at legendslookback@utini.com. You can send us a message in the Legends Look Back Discord channel, leave a comment on this episode on YouTube, or you can find us on Twitter at Legends Look Back. Or me, I'm at Jared Q. Mays. Freddie.
At Wake Up Freddy.
Rick.
At Rick_Grace.
And Emily.
At Darth Daybeck.
Wonderful. If you're looking to buy some of these books, such as the Essential Reader's Companion, and you want to help support the show, you can look up a book on Utini, click the Amazon link in the profile, and hey, after you've read it, we'd love to know what you think, and leave us a review. Remember, everybody, in the meantime, keep the Utini fan code and be a force for positivity and fandom. May the force be with you.
This is a Utini broadcast.